but James is good.
I don't know.
So
whether-
sorry.
I know, I saw your text.
So sorry.
Mine will take 30 seconds.
I didn't realize you were bringing Pepsi.
Yeah.
No offense to Pepsi, but
What are the stands downstairs? Do they Coke or Pepsi? The concession.
the concessions, I think the Coke.
Okay, then what I'll do, next month, we saw that, as long as you do the concession thing on the way out.
I know, I saw that, they brought it in at 11, I was like, you real right away, Sean's gonna kill me.
What's the
I hate
I think most people
yeah.
Yeah.
Drink water cup. I need caffeine.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
that, just
But
like
this
now
is-
Matt, see Matt, this is the things I have to, you
I've been there,
know,
man.
everyone has their particulars that I gotta keep in mind.
I've never met anybody who's like, everybody's preference for Coke or indifference.
Yeah. Glad it's on. The Pepsi has, they put a lot of money out into it. I've been arguing with the Sorrentino family for grass rail since 1975. To get Coke, and I've lost for now for 40 years.
The nod.
My wife is the same way.
I appreciate the nod to pescatarian.
And
No problem.
we were in North Carolina.
I try to accommodate as much as I
North
can.
Carolina is the best possible.
It takes some getting used to.
The entire 10 days
It's
we
an
were there,
amazing job
she's
to
got
kind
one
of
restaurant.
the combination is like
Yeah,
one of the hardest.
There's a business opportunity for it.
so it's coordination.
Job to keep it going.
Yes.
You got it there. Now the bar just keeps going up. Pepsi in 2011 or something like that. Actually, I had one of the waiters who was a buddy of mine when I was in high school. But keep a couple of six packs and stuff. Diet Coke there. Yeah, that did work. Want to? What a pain. Yeah, just call them over. I had these stuffed lobsters, really nice lobsters. No, 4 minutes. Hey, John. Chuck, how are you? I'm good. Good. We have the mussels and stuff like that. Shrimp scallops and crab and a scampi sauce with linguine. Oh, so good. Mike, how you doing, Chuck? I'm good.
You feeling composed?
No.
Relief.
Oh, really?
Relief.
Yeah, it's maybe 2 miles off 95.
Yeah, kind of.
So it's not real deep in the bottom.
A lot of responsibility.
It is.
You're signing the, yeah,
Where things on like.
good, really good, yeah.
It's not raining when I leave. Donated them.
Frank?
It's been there for a long time, 1970s. If you want a 5-pound lobster, you have to pay for it. How are you, Josh?
I just got
A man of precision. Not that I pay attention to that stuff. Teenage girl.
How was the weekend, bro?
Quick. It always is, you know. It's like, yeah, I got a picture of this. This is great. But you just end up falling through the cracks.
Oh, for me?
We're down in Durham in Europe.
You know what, though? It felt more like Labor Day as opposed to Memorial Day because I was doing a lot of work. I thought I was just going to take but it was good. You know, I did the landscaping.
Nobody, I can't believe that. Kids got the jump in this weekend.
Usually it's not. Yeah, we got I wasn't optimistic at first. Yeah, so good.
Just in Nashville, there's got a wedding on
I'll
Sunday.
take it for 3 days, man. Good timing, too.
He is willing, he just said.
The cathedral and at the Renaissance. That's charges.
That's a question mark.
And Mike Downs.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Board of Governors board meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody and hope everyone enjoyed the lovely weekend. Had a nice run of good weather. Hopefully everyone got a little bit R&R and is ready to go back to work. So I would like to ask everyone to please rise and we'll conduct our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our first order of business is actually a very wonderful responsibility as chair. I have the honor of helping recognize individuals that have helped our organization become the best it can be. This year has been outstanding. In that regard. So we have, I have the honor of sharing 4 awards today. For the first, I'd like to pass it on to Tom for an introduction. So Tom.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Lozano, members of the Board of Governors. To be the best regional airport system in North America and achieve our mission of being a customer-centric organization, you need not only dedicated employees, but also very passionate volunteers who are committed to delivering the highest level of customer service. And today, we are actually losing one of the most popular smiles in the Lehigh Valley that has impacted the travel experience of so many passengers. Johnny Fina has started as a customer service volunteer back in 2003, that's 16 years ago, for the LNAA, before becoming a member of our Navigator volunteer program. And typically Johnny volunteered about 3 days a week, and he was stationed at the passenger services desk on the lower level. I would always see him there. Johnny was always the person that jumped at the opportunity to help LNAA employees or a passenger while supporting our customer engagement initiatives here at the airport with tours and special events. You could always see Johnny there. You never had to ask him twice. And so Johnny is actually now headed to the Sunshine State of Florida with his family, who are thankfully joining us today. Thank you for being here, John and Donna. John, you know, in recognition of your 16 years of service with us, we're very honored to present you with this plaque, which says, in recognition of 16 years of volunteer service at ABE, presented to John Fina. So John, come on up here. From the bottom of our hearts, John, we just want to say thank you for being a valued member of our team. You're going to be missed. Don't forget, we're only a non-stop flight away.
That I know, yes.
Please come back and visit us anytime.
I would do that. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Tom. Our next award goes to a fellow board member who has served with distinction. I'd like to call Mike Schwer up to the podium. For those of you who know Mike, he's a financial expert by training and by trade, and he has helped us tremendously in his position as chair of the Finance Committee. Under his stewardship, along with John, Todd, Karen, etc., we just completed a clean audit, and we had wonderful financials this year. Couldn't have done it without you, Mike. I'm happy to have been a friend of yours on the board and served with you for 5 years. And so, in recognition of your service,
We have so many, I can't keep track here.
I'd like to read, in appreciation of Michael P. Schwer for exemplary service to the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority as a committee chair and member of the Board of Governors. Mike Schwer, presented April 30th, 2019. Mike.
It looks like you have a long agenda, so I just want to say thank you to everyone, everyone on the board, everyone on the staff that's helped me over the years when I had questions, and if I can ever repay it, please give me a call. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, our next award goes to a gentleman who needs no introduction. His name is Chuck Diacon. He is our most recent chair, and I have very big shoes to fill, taking over his role.
11.5.
Chuck, it's been an honor serving alongside you. I really appreciate your friendship. The expertise Chuck has brought to the board has been tremendous and has helped us progress our real estate agenda. So we are not losing Chuck. He is going to remain chairman emeritus and will continue to help us on the board in his role in the executive committee. So Chuck, I have an award for you here, and I'm going to read, in appreciation of Charles R. Diacon for exemplary service to the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority as chairman of the Board of Governors, presented May 28th, 2019. Chuck.
Just finish my raisin cookie. Eddie, thank you. I appreciate the recognition. Unexpected, but appreciated. It's been a pleasure to serve as the chair of the board of a wonderful staff, a great airport system in an area that I love, growing up here in the Lehigh Valley, and just to see it improve and the energy around the board. I'm very proud to serve, so thank you very much.
Our next award, as you can see, is being presented to a large group, and this award is truly outstanding because it is probably one of our highest honors that we can receive. It's bestowed upon us by the FAA, and it really hits to the heart of our mission, which is safety and operational excellence. We recently passed a Part 139 airport certification with perfect score, which is almost unheard of. And I think we've done this maybe 2 years in a row. I want to take this minute to recognize Tom, because Tom, as you know, has been the long-standing head of our operations organization here at the Airport Authority. And under his stewardship, he's taken our organization to the pinnacle of operational and safety excellence. So Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate your effort. That continues on to you, Steve. We know you're in good hands, and also the rest of the organization. So I'd like to read a proclamation in honor of this achievement. The mission of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority is to operate facilities at Lehigh Valley International Airport safely and efficiently. It's important to recognize these achievements, which highlight the accomplishment of this critical mission. On behalf of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority Board of Governors, we have a special proclamation for LNAA staff. I'm paraphrasing here. Whereas the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority is subject to annual Federal Aviation Administration Part 139 airport certification inspections. Whereas FAA Inspector John Green executed the 2019 Part 139 airport certification safety inspection on Monday, May 13th through Wednesday, May 15th, 2019, and communicated high praise of the Airport Authority's self-inspection program and for maintaining safe conditions at the airport. Whereas the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority received notification of no findings and was awarded a perfect FAA Part 139 airport certification safety inspection for ABE for the second time in airport history. Whereas the Airport Authority Board of Governors extends our congratulations to the entire team for your hard work. Now therefore, I, Edwin R. Lozano, Chairman of the LNAA Board of Governors, hereby recognize the LNAA staff for their service and teamwork to remarkable achievement this 28th day of May 2019. Congratulations. So I think we're going to try to squeeze in a photo here. And so then you have the proclamation itself that I just signed?
Yes.
Yep. Should be, yeah. I'd ask you to slide over here a little bit. Yeah, go across.
She's hiding. Yeah, you got one hiding.
1, 2, 3.
Make sure.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Okay, so as I mentioned, that's the extraordinarily fun and honorable part of this role. Now we'll transition to just the regular order of business. So, Sylvette, could you please conduct a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Brian Dames.
Here.
Chuck Dycott.
Here.
Mike Dowd.
Here.
Frank Facciano.
Here.
Glenn Geisinger.
Present by phone.
John Hayes.
Here.
Larry Hemberger. Ed Lozano.
Present.
Jeff Matskin. Glenn Reedman.
Present.
Ted Rosenberger. Mike Serchik.
Here.
Matt Turk.
Here.
Chris Worley.
Here.
Tara Zrinsky. Here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Sylvette, and at this point, I'd like to ask Bob Hutzler, please present himself to the podium for public comment.
Clarissa go first, please.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, Clarissa, would you like to come up and just state your name?
Good morning. I am Clarissa McIntosh. I'm a pilot with the Lehigh Valley General Aviation Association. We advocate for both the general aviation pilots and the general aviation airports in the area. We're very happy with the new commitment to develop strategic business and marketing plans that acknowledge the unique opportunities, challenges, and communities represented by Braden Airport and Queen City Airport. A core group of us in the general aviation community have been talking to pilots who are currently based at the LNAA airports, GA pilots who might be interested in either Braden or Queen City Airport, and airport managers at other general aviation airports in the area to find out exactly what issues are keeping pilots away from our airports and to find out what is and is not working for other public general aviation airports. We have printed handouts for each of you outlining what we have discovered, and we're still in the discovery process. We continue to gather information and we'll come to the general aviation meetings to help develop strategies that will put both general aviation airports on solid financial footing. We would like to point out that none of the GA airports we visited are leasing their land to commercial developers as a revenue stream. Instead, they are focused on finding ways to be valuable to their community, area, businesses, schools, colleges, and organizations. You will see that there are a great many other aviation-related options to explore when you have time to read your handouts. We thank everyone assembled here for everything that you're doing to make the LNAA system the very best that it can be. Thank you.
Bob?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Board, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am Bob Hutzler, a tenant here at LBIA, a member of the GAAC committee, an EAA Chapter 70 member at Braden's Airpark, and I'm an advocate for Braden's. Today I speak on behalf of myself and the EAA chapter based at Easton. They have asked me to speak to you, and they are in the midst of putting together a letter urging you not to build the FBO at Braden's at this time. There are several other projects far more important than a building. Tom Stout has told me that you've traveled too far down the planning road to stop now. However, we are not advocating abolishing the idea of a new FBO, just to put it on the back burner for a year or two. The main criteria for any project at Braden should be solely what will attract new planes and new businesses to the field. New T hangars would be far more advantageous and more financially beneficial than an FBO. T hangars, if priced competitively, would generate revenues and be attractive to new tenants and or existing tenants. We are certain there are several EAA members that would gladly relocate back to Braden's if new T's were put up. A new FBO will not attract any airplanes nor pilots onto the field, and I am not sure how you expect to make money from a new FBO building. While we've heard new T's are not financially viable, we do not accept that premise. Virtually all of the local GA airports have no hangar space available, and many have a waiting list. And as you read through aviation magazines, you will read that many small airports across the country are continually putting up T hangars. And not to be repetitious, but T's do generate money. FBO building won't. And as Darren had said at the last GAAC meeting, the new Hangar 11, I believe that's the number, the one you're building here currently, will probably be filled before it's even finished being built. And similarly, at Braden, several pilots in recent months have flown in and talked to either Dave or Newman at the field. They ask about prices, about availabilities of T's, and then they leave. We have several flying club members that have left Braden's or came directly here because Easton's prices were either too high or had no decent T's available for their planes. One gentleman that did attend the recent GAAC meeting brought his Grumman Tiger to Braden's because of the reduced tie-down rates and said that the sheds are way overpriced for what they are. So having reduced the tie-down rates is working. There's not much planning that would have to go into building T's, just a number of how many you want and where you want to locate them. Send out the bids and get the job done. Put the plans and prints for an FBO into a drawer for future planning. You could realistically break ground this fall and have new T's available by spring. Some years ago, you diverted FBO grant money for Braden's and spent it here. So I know you can reallocate the existing FBO money to hangar money if you choose. While the current FBO trailers are not pretty, they do serve, they do serve the purpose for the foreseeable future. When a new prospect does wander into the parking lot, the trailer may or may not be attended as workers are marshaling airplanes or fueling. There's not a visible manned gate or a friendly sign welcoming them, just a dire warning to keep out under penalty of law. So far, your plans seem to be a hit and miss at Braden's, and the generator comes to mind. You spend a lot of money and it looks great, but I don't know that's ever been used other than exercising it once a month. Raising the old barn was great, but that does not attract new business. It doesn't attract new tenants. Again, we feel new projects should be chosen solely on the criteria of what will attract new planes and new businesses to Braden's. Projects like a new FBO can be considered after the field has more planes and businesses, and the businesses are financially stable and doing well. Again, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the first order of business, approval of meeting minutes from our last board meeting. Could I please get a motion to approve the minutes, as presented by our secretary? So moved by Larry. Can I get a second? Second by John. Okay, opening the floor to any questions, comments on the meeting minutes? No? Hearing none, we'll take a vote on approving the meeting minutes. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes as presented by the secretary, say aye. Aye. All those against? Aye. Thank you. All those against? Okay, hearing no objections, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we'll continue on to the first order of business in terms of committees. I'd like to pass the floor to John Hayes, our Secretary Treasurer, who chaired the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the Finance Committee that was part of the Novus agenda package. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Sylvette. First, we'll talk about the monthly performance for the month of April. Monthly net revenues were 8% and $505,000 favorable versus budget. This was driven by a few things. Number one, non-aviation lease revenues were up dramatically in regard to the Rockefeller land option payment, I should say. That goes to what we call recurring, non-recurring revenue. We've had a large amount of real estate development, as everyone knows, over the past several years. And while we don't consider that recurring revenue, it's been a significant contributor to the performance of the airport authority. Had parking revenue and terminal revenue both up dramatically. That's in regard to passenger traffic. We'll talk about that a little bit. I know Tom will talk about it a little bit more. But we've seen now 18 months, I think, of increased performance. And the performance in terms of passenger traffic for the month of April was the highest monthly number since 2011, if I remember correctly. So passenger traffic continues to be very strong. We did see a slight decrease in cargo flights, which resulted in a decrease in landing and apron fee revenue. Not overly concerning. We have a good freight operation here, and we don't think that's going to be a long-term concern. And then lastly, monthly expenses were favorable to budget due to open headcount. We've continued to manage staffing appropriately, not leaving any gaps, but not bringing people in prior to them being needed, and also timing on contract and professional fees. So we'll go to the next slide, which is the year-to-date numbers. Just talk about these and headline numbers because the details underneath were very similar to what we saw in the monthly numbers. Year-to-date net income, $1,135,000 is favorable to budget by $931,000. So this is a continued strong performance of the Airport Authority for the fiscal year. And the reasons are listed below. And again, they're very similar to what we saw for the month of April, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. We can go to the next slide. This is what we talked about in terms of the performance of the passenger traffic coming through the airport. If you look at it in 2009, year-to-date, we're 273,000 passengers. We cracked 83,000 in the month of April. We were up 27.3% over prior year. Looking at the breakouts, we continue to see growth in Allegiant, but we also are seeing double-digit increases in legacy traffic as well. I actually was the beneficiary. I took the American flight to Chicago on my way out to Palm Desert a couple weeks ago. An adventure getting back due to weather in Chicago. 2.5 hours late getting in there. Fortunately, and I will never say that, I shouldn't say this publicly, our flight was 2.5 hours late because of weather and crew delays. So I was able to get back in here. But service is good, plane was full, and we're seeing that in terms of the numbers. So we hope that this is a continuing trend. It's been a very strong trend over the past couple of years. Next slide, which you saw in the package, is a further discussion of the variances. I think we've gone through those. And then lastly, we have on the last slide, the monthly cash flow projections. This is something that we track very closely. You can see for the month of May, we're projecting that we just go straight to the bottom number, which is the number of days cash on hand after backing out the contingency. We're at 113 days cash on hand. We're projecting to be 138 days and 152 days for June and July. We will see some of those funds that are sitting on our balance sheet now spent on projects that have already been approved, so that will result in decreases in cash on hand as we get into the remainder of 2019 and into 2020. But we are projecting that we stay above 60 days cash on hand. That's the number that is our target. That's where we want to stay above. So with that, Todd, did I miss anything?
I think you covered it quite well.
Okay. I could be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, open the floor to questions to our treasurer on that report. Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the April treasury report as presented by John? So moved by Chuck. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Frank. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor of approving the treasury report as presented by John, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any abstentions or otherwise? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, thank you very much, John, for a great report, and Todd, thank you as well, and finance staff. Okay, let's continue on to the Business Development Committee, chaired by Matt. So Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Eddie. Thursday, we had a nice productive meeting of the Business Development Committee. Got a couple of updates on capital projects from Ryan, including runway improvements, the shutdown that went very successfully in spite of rain. Somehow we soldiered through and had a good outcome. Additionally, got an update, I think notably on the escalator repair. I think we're plugging along there and in good shape for a speedy recovery of up and down service. Got an update on development projects from Darren, many of which we held for discussion during the executive committee, so I can give an update on those. But we had a good event on May 17th with the inaugural flight in from Nashville on Allegiant, and expecting similar excitement on June 8th with the Savannah flight, although it's going to be much earlier in the morning. So, but hope to see everybody there. I'm sure you'll be getting up at, what time's the arrival there? In 7?
Yeah, it's early. So, on a Saturday morning, so
Yeah.
we'll be waiting for you all.
When I flew out at 6 a.m. and everybody was awake. So that's, put props out.
Couple of action items the committee reviewed and forwarded to the board for approval, including, and I'll let Ryan walk through these, one related to renovations for the boardroom and the other related to FAA reimbursable agreement. So from there, I'll let Ryan take over.
Great. All right, thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everybody. There's two quick items that we talked about in the committee that we're looking for approval for. The first one is the office renovations and boardroom relocation project. For about the last year and a half, we've been working through some concepts and alternatives of what we can do for additional office space for our existing and planned staffing levels, because we're out of space up here on the third floor. So we went through a number of different alternatives, and the goal of this project is to turn this boardroom into additional workspace office area and relocate the boardroom downstairs on the second level, in a public area, but obviously enclosed in a room being secure. We actually got 7 bids on May 15th, which is a great number to receive. You can see the summary breakdown and attachments. We have all the bid tabs and where things fell, but the thing to really take a look at is the 4 lowest bids are about $40,000 within range of each other, which shows they're all looking at the same documents, they're comparing them the same, and they all understand the scope of the project. Actually, the lowest 2 or the base bid were only $9,300 apart, which I think is a good indication as well that it's a fair and competitive price. So Bracy Construction from Allentown, PA was the lowest responsive bid at $908,200, which included $100,000 contingency and $8,300 to do demo work at night, given the office space will still be occupied during the construction. The other piece that we did that wasn't included in the 908 number was we broke out some of the IT equipment, the audiovisual, the workstations, other pieces that really connect with our systems here. We'll be purchasing them through CoStar as a cooperative purchasing program. It allows us to make sure we're getting what we need. We can negotiate some of the pricing. So as part of the approval, we're looking for a not to exceed budget amount of $380,000 as we're doing some negotiation of what's included and what isn't for the price. So we'll scroll down a little bit. And then we talked about in the committee as well, but this is broken out into 5 phases to go through, working around staffing levels, obviously working downstairs as well. But basically, we're looking for about, putting the documents about 8 months for the construction, so sometime in February of next year being complete. Once we meet with Bracy and know what their schedule is and potential timing, we'll obviously be able to provide more of an update in terms of the timing with that. So With that, we're looking for approval to award the contract to Bracy Construction for $908,200, and then the cooperative purchasing for the associated equipment, as you mentioned, for not to exceed of $380. So any questions?
Questions for Ryan on this project? Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion to approve the office renovation and board relocation project as presented?
So
Okay, so moved by Matt. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Larry. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Okay, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of approving the project as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Aye.
There's a time delay, right? Hearing no objections, motion passes. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the presentation. Matt, over to you.
And then the next one is a pretty standard, but odd. As odd as it sounds, we're going to kind of, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, Tom, but get authority to spend PennDOT's money and then ask for it back.
Yeah. We'll have Ryan run through this one,
Sure.
but certainly if there's questions.
Yeah, pretty standard. We do on a lot of airport projects, but it's getting an agreement from the FAA to get reimbursement from the FAA, just a different division of the FAA. So basically, as part of our second package of the runway 624 rehabilitation project, any work that impacts the navigational aids, so your ILS, localizer, the critical areas associated with aircraft arriving and landing at the airport during inclement weather, any modifications to the systems or work within the critical area requires their review and approval. The agreement itself is FAA eligible for reimbursement through AIP. So the amount that they need to do the second package is $386,995. The grants are due end of June, so they'll be included in the grants, and we get 90% back from the FAA, 5% back from the state. Really what this reimbursable agreement covers is some of the grading in the safety area and the critical areas. It also includes analyzing a potential shelter relocation as the localizer antenna is being relocated by the FAA in a future package. So even though they're doing that work, you got to coordinate with us, do analysis and surveys and so forth. So again, it'll be included in our cash flow. End of June, grants will go in. We'll probably get grants in September and then get reimbursed. The other thing to note, I think I didn't mention, is almost similar to utility work, is everything is required prepayment up front. So you pay, then you get reimbursed. If there's any money outstanding that they haven't used, they give us the money back. And then we pay back, the FAA for whatever we had reimbursed as part of that. So, again, pretty standard, but it's required in order for us to keep moving with the project.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the FAA reimbursable agreement as presented? So moved by Mike. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Tara. Okay, any other additional questions, comments for Ryan or Matt? Okay, hearing none, let's take this to vote. All those in favor of approving the FAA reimbursable agreement as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
On the way. He's up there, Mike.
maybe drop out.
Okay, anybody against? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, thank you very much, Matt and Ryan. Anything else to cover
That
off?
concludes the report of the Business Development Committee.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Let's move over to the Finance Committee. John, you chaired that committee this past week. Would you mind taking over?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one item on the agenda is approval of the 2018 financial audit. This was completed by Crowe LLP. It's their fourth year as our auditors. Scott Nickerson presented at, I think it was Exec and Finance last week in regard to the contents of the report. A couple things to point out. Number one, there were no adjusting entries or restatements of anything. So what that says is two things. Number one, the information that we get on a monthly basis, that we review on a monthly basis, is accurate. We can rely on it. Number two, it talks to the quality of the work, the staff that we have here. Todd and his team do an outstanding job making sure that the reporting that we get on a monthly basis is accurate, it's complete, and it's information we can rely on as we make decisions in regard to the airport authority. Number three, The audit is being delivered in advance of the county deadline, so we're good. We're meeting all of our deadline requirements to get this information approved and filed with Lehigh and Northampton counties as well, which they're required to receive it, I believe, by June 30. So it was reviewed at the committee, so I would entertain any questions at this point. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read it. If you haven't, take the time to do so. There's a lot of good information in there. And Todd, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, a couple things. First, Scott is on the line. Scott, are you there? I think he's there.
Yes, I am.
So if anybody has any questions, you can direct them directly to Scott. But the key thing when we do these audits is, as John pointed out, is the information something you can count on? Is it something reliable? And that's what you have. You have reliable information. Our staff does a really great job. We pride ourselves on honesty and accuracy, and we do that. Scott also did a review to make sure we're in compliance. He also does a lot of benchmarking. One of the reasons we did employ Crow is because of their airport experience. So he kind of says, what are other folks doing versus what you're doing? So he kind of gives us some benchmarks to look at. Obviously, we can't be the best regional airport if we don't know what the competitors are doing, and that's something that Scott helps us with. So Scott's on the phone if you have any questions. Again, clean audit. You should feel really good about that. I know I feel good. We had the perfect 139, perfect audit. You've got a great team around here, and it's part of the board and staff together, so you should just feel good about it. If you want to applaud, we'll take it. That's about it.
Yeah, we actually should give it a round of applause to staff. Todd, you stole my thunder. I was definitely going to recommend a round of applause, but for the fellow board members, I did ask one question because, this is, I think, the second year that we've had a good, clean audit. And one of the concerns that I had in the past was whether we had the latest and greatest technology and tools to deliver the wonderful audit that we did. And Chris, I think, who's on the line. Scott confirmed that we do. We have recently started to upgrade some of our software, et cetera. So that's good. So we're catching up because we were a little bit deficient in terms of the tools that we had at our disposal. But I think now we're starting to spend appropriately in the right areas. So I'm thankful to you for doing very efficient work without the tools, and hopefully those tools will help you even more. So rest assured that compared to other airports, we have the appropriate basic tools to conduct our job, and that's a testament to Todd and his group and Karen as well. So that was one of the questions I had. Anybody else have any questions for Todd, John, in regards to our financial audit? Nope. Okay, hearing none. Could I please get a motion for the approval of the 2018 financial audit as presented?
I'll make a motion.
So moved by John. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Tara. Okay. Any additional questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, let's take it to vote. All those in favor of approving the 2018 financial audit as presented by John, please say aye. Say yes.
Aye.
Yes. Any against? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. And again, Todd, team, thank you very much for a wonderful job. That's a wonderful accomplishment. Okay, so the next order of business is the executive committee. I headed up that committee this past week, and there's two orders of business here. One is the approval of a resolution for a consultant qualification committee that is to be formed. Can I ask Tom to just kind of review it real quickly, or Judge?
You'll recall that we're receiving a $5 million grant from PennDOT for highway widening. One of the requirements that PennDOT has is that we appoint a consultant qualification committee. The resolution accomplishes that and satisfies that PennDOT requirement. The members of the committee will be the executive director, the director of planning, and the director of business development. And each of those individuals are allowed to designate someone to sit in their place on the committee. This is a rather routine matter. It satisfies what PennDOT has required. we'll be able to fill in the blanks and sign the necessary forms.
Okay, thank you. Judge, any questions for the judge regarding this matter? As the judge stated, it's pretty standard, simple approval for a consultant committee. So hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the appointment of the consultant qualification committee for PennDOT? So moved by Matt. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Glenn. Any additional questions, comments? If none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the Consultant Qualification Committee for PennDOT as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much. The second order of business at the Executive Committee, and if you don't mind, I'll stand for a second. As you know, we're transitioning to a new committee structure. So I worked with various board members and staff on trying to set up the most efficient and productive committee structure. So we put together the following objectives: balance the workload. This past term, we had kind of a lot of heavy work on the executive committee, so we thought we might want to balance it out a little bit. Continue to leverage experienced members and their skill sets and competencies. Focus on some of the core functions, some clear deliverables. What are the 2 or 3 outputs from each committee? And then to elevate the general aviation agenda. Administratively, the chairs of each respective committee will determine the frequency. We put a placeholder of monthly, but if the chairs determine that maybe bi-monthly is better or quarterly, that is to their discretion. We'd like to continue the tradition of hosting the committee meetings on one day, whether it's the Tuesday or Thursday before the last Tuesday, which is our official board meeting. It makes it good for planning purposes, so we're going to continue that. Executive committee ideally would be the last meeting. Usually it was the first, and sometimes what would happen is we would discuss something in executive committee and then we'd discuss it later in business and finance, and then we'd kind of try to circle back after the fact. So we're going to move the executive committee to the last meeting of the day. And then a key point, just stressing, and I think we've done a great job, but just continue, is put the appropriate time and attention each committee meeting deserves to come out with the best recommendation. Some meetings are quick, take half an hour. Others, we have some media agendas. We have some really good analysis that's presented and some good debate. So let's take the appropriate time and energy to come to the best possible conclusion. So there were 2 options I had put together based on discussions with various board members, staff, etc. This is the one that I think we all agreed upon at the executive committee meeting. As you can see, we clearly have chairs. There was a great idea that was raised by Ted, and Brian was fully supportive of it, which is, given the complexity of the GA agenda as we continue to elevate it, and given those individual members are traveling, that's part of their job, right? We thought it would be a good idea to appoint co-chairs. Additionally, which is another benefit of this, it will allow our chairpersons to focus on a respective airport. So for example, Ted Rosenberger, who has a lot of experience with commercial aircraft and is based at Queen City, can really take a little bit more of the lead at Queen City, whereas Brian can take the lead over at Braden. So that's kind of how the work will be divided as well. Of course, there will be cross-pollination, et cetera, but we think it makes a lot of sense there. Additionally, we have some, most I think are consistent folks in terms of staff being the point of contact, but in some cases we've added. So for example, in the General Aviation Committee, we added Ryan Meyer. As we continue to develop and elevate the GA agenda, we are getting into more infrastructure-related projects. So Ryan's expertise alongside Collins is very welcome and helpful. As well over here on the Business Committee, having Colin, who's got a lot of great marketing and PR expertise, is going to be a great help as we continue to improve our marketing and build our infrastructure here at the Airport Authority. Here are some key tasks. They're fairly consistent with what we had in the past. And then some key deliverables. These are the outputs that we're going to focus in on for each committee. So for example, the succession plan for the executive committee will be hopefully defined within the next couple of meetings. A strategic plan, an updated strategic plan that's approved. One of the ideas that I raised with Tom and some of you may have been a part of it a couple of years ago, is we had a strategic planning offsite meeting. I remember it was held at Olympus's headquarters, and it was the board coming together with staff and really just kind of white paper type of stuff, just kind of getting in, reviewing our history and looking at our vision and our mission statement, and then kind of redefining our strategies and our vision and our mission and our plan. So that's something I'd like to do again this year if it's possible. Thought it was a really productive meeting. I think I would attribute that to part of our success. We really aligned together as a board and staff, and I think the proof is in the pudding with our results recently. So I suggest we do that again. Of course, we have the executive director and our counselors' evaluations, so those will be key outputs for the executive committee. In terms of the finance committee, we've already done this. Let's hope we can repeat it. The clean audits. Pension is very important, and under Glenn's supervision, we'll hopefully come through with another well-funded, strong pension plan and with Todd's support. Accurate financial reporting will be day-to-day as a key output of the Finance Committee. Business Committee will be, of course, efficient expenditures. The Business Committee will be the primary committee that's responsible for the CapEx. So all the projects that, are basically Ryan-led, elevator repairs, building infrastructure, facilities infrastructure, that'll fall under the Business Committee. And one of the things we have to start looking at as we continue to grow is our brand strategy, our marketing strategy. How do we want to project the airport authority as we continue on our mission to be the best regional airport system in the country? So we have some really good members too, and I kind of grade them here because these are recommendations that I have. If any board member would like to suggest an alternative committee, happy to entertain that. But right now, these are the members that have been identified. So. And then in terms of the GA committee, we'd love to, by the end of this year, maybe have GA plans for each of the respective airports, because they are different. Queen City is different than LVIA, than Braden. As you can tell, they're on different parts of the journey in terms of evolution. So it would be ideal to have the GA committee led by Ted and Brian have some business plans, not necessarily the strategic plan. We have the strategic plan, right? But what are the specific annual operating plans for Braden, for LVIA, and for Queen City as it relates to the broader system? And then ideally, if we can, start thinking about what could be our next major GA event. If you recall, a few years ago, we had an air show here at Allentown, and it was extraordinarily well received. There were a lot of challenges, of course, right? Things like logistics and parking and things of that nature. But I think overall, we got high credit for bringing a wonderful show, revitalizing GA, et cetera. And hopefully we can plan for something like that in the future, alongside the smaller events that we host year in, year out at Braden, Queen City. And then the nominating committee to be determined. Larry did a wonderful job this year in terms of really thinking through the officer election process. But what I would like to recommend we add is kind of a little bit of a recommendation by the committee to the county, to the board, on what types of individuals we should be looking for. Because there's a lot of turnover, as you know. Every year we lose one or two board members, and sometimes we lose a key skill set or a key competency. For example, it was wonderful to gain Chuck and his expertise in real estate and development, right? Sooner or later, Chuck is going to leave the board. And what happens if he leaves the board and we don't have that experience, expertise? And as you know, we're now heavily involved in real estate development, in infrastructure projects, et cetera. So it would be ideal to be able to recommend to our county executives, hey, you know what? We're going to be losing a certain amount of expertise, capability, experience. These are the types of individuals we would ideally look for. It's, of course, up to the county executive to determine who they want to recommend and ultimately appoint. But it's probably worthwhile for us, knowing our board, to at least have a recommendation to the county executives and county councils on who would be ideal in terms of type of background. So that's kind of the committee structure going forward. This committee, meetings this month were kind of transitionary, but assuming all goes well, this will be the committee structure going forward. So with that, I open it up to any questions, comments from the board or staff. Okay, great. So if you have anything you would like to run by myself or the executive committee, feel free to email us. But hopefully that'll be a good structure going forward. And again, I thank in particular the committee chairpersons for taking on the responsibility, and I'm very confident that we're going to have another good year. So thank you. And with that, I think we'll conclude the executive committee. And I want to pass it off to Tom for the director's report.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As John Hayes mentioned, 19 consecutive months of positive passenger growth, so 27.3% increase in April. It was just phenomenal. Last time we saw that type of a percentage increase was 2004, which happens to be the year we hit 1 million passengers. So pretty remarkable numbers. Again, American leading the charge at 53% increase. And just so we're aware, it's benchmarking off of last April, which was up 17%. So, when you look at that year over year again, it's pretty great numbers. So, of course, in terms of what we've kind of covered since our last meeting, I wanted to mention, going back to Real ID, the Pennsylvania Real ID, staff took some initiative to set up some different stations, information stations in the terminal down by the checkpoint, one on the second level, and produce some information cards. And we produced about 1,000 of those cards. Those are gone. So people are definitely taking the information, which is important. We want folks to be aware at October 2020, you're going to need a Real ID or passport to get through the checkpoint. So very important to keep that in front of folks as they're picking up people or transitioning through the airport. So we did get that established. We did attend Aviation Advocacy Day in Harrisburg. Great set of meetings with some of our local elected legislators. So good support for the airport authority out there. On the 11th, Saturday, we had our 5th Wings for All event. So we had about 60 families go through that event, that partnership with Allegiant. Great attendance, really good event. So always looking at that every year, a partnership with the ARC is just a great opportunity to get folks to the airport. And May 17th, we had already talked about the Nashville service and the inaugural there. So that service, again, nonstop, runs through the end of the year as far as we can see. So schedule's built out till January, and it runs through at least there. So we'll continue to watch that service. And just May 19th, we held the ABE Travel and Leisure Expo here in the terminal. So local travel agencies participating in that and learning more about the airport and the service here. So very important to do that. In terms of what's coming up, Allegiant is beginning their next nonstop service to Savannah Hilton Head June 8th. So as we talked about early in the morning, Matt said he's going to be here, so we'll look for him early Saturday, June 8th.
Might run here.
There you go. And then I'm going to be participating in the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce Transportation Forum this year, panel discussion, right? So that's June 11th. That's a Tuesday over at MAC, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. We are having another TSA pre-check event, and that'll be running from June 17th to the 29th. So June 17th to the 29th. We've already enrolled over 8,600 people just here. So really phenomenal just to get people in that system. But if you're looking for pre-check signups, you can do that on tsa.gov. And then lastly, we are holding on June 27th our Air Service Focus Group meeting. We haven't had one of those in a little while, but that's a Thursday. So June 27th, we'll be holding that meeting here. So beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, any questions for our executive director on the report? Okay, hearing none, we'll conclude the director's report. And Tom, thank you. I just want to comment really quickly. I mean, you've just heard a wonderful report in terms of community service activities, et cetera. We just completed a clean audit for the second year in a row. We just passed a perfect inspection 2 years in a row. Our air traffic is up double digit. Things are going extraordinarily well, bless you. And I want to comment, and I hope this doesn't sound selfish, but it's due to all the heavy lifting of this group right here, staff and our board. And so I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. If we put the effort into it, and which we are, and this is what I'm trying to comment, this is my point. We've been putting in a lot of effort, a lot of the members around this table. And I think if we work hard, we work smart, this is the result. And I think what's great is, above and beyond that, it's the leadership of staff and the collaboration, I would say, with staff. I mean, we have an extraordinarily talented group of individuals on our staff, and I think we've been working very well together. And so let's continue that, because I think, the bar is raising every year, and we keep meeting that bar. So let's continue, not stop. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts around the table, and staff, thank you again. And what a year. I mean, in terms of the audit and the inspection, I mean, that's just incredible, let alone, the operating and the financial numbers. So good job, everyone, and I would just say thank you again, Tom, for your leadership.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so our next order of business is the solicitor's report, and Judge, I'll
I
pass the
have
floor to
a
you.
very brief executive session I'd like to have. Relates to pending litigation and possibly filing a complaint. Won't take long.
Okay,
And there'll be a motion when we come out of executive session.
so there will be a motion after executive session for those who are with us. Okay, so can I get a motion to go into executive session, please? So moved by Matt, can I get a second? Seconded by Brian. Okay, we'll be going into executive session. When we're out of executive session,
Turf management is still.
at this point, I'll ask the judge to summarize why we went into executive session, and I think we're going to call for a vote.
We discussed two matters in executive session. One relates to a complaint that I requested authorization to file, and that will be the subject of a motion shortly. The other matter related to a prospective real estate transaction. With regard to the litigation, I request a motion authorizing the solicitor to file litigation against Van Allen Airmotive Incorporated for back rental due and possession of leased premises.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion that.
So moved by Frank, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by John. Open the floor to questions, comments about this motion. Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of commencing the litigation, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much, Judge. At this point, any new business? No new business? Okay. So I think we're ready to close. Can I get a motion to adjourn our meeting? Okay. Motion by Tara. Thank you, Tara. Second? Who need the second?